Treehouse of Horror 11 starts with a parody of the Season 2 Munsters intro. But it aired on November 1st. All the candy is eaten by then. First is Ghost Dad. This one gets 2 strikes. First, it made me say that title. Second, it really hates broccoli. Really hates it. We see how hard Homer is to kill, though. He survives a fatal paper cut, a falling tree, a falling Planet Hollywood sign, a pickaxe to the head, a rattlesnake to the arm, and some kind of off-camera testicle thing. Yeah, we don't ask questions. Next, scary tales can come true, and this one is grim. It's got lousy Simpsons parenting and Homer laying actual eggs for dinner. But you've got to applaud Bart's solution for the 3 bears porridge problem. Bravo, El Barto. Then there's Night of the Dolphin, where the clowns of the sea reclaim the dry land and banish all of Springfield, and possibly the whole world, to the sea. And all because Lisa opened a gate. You should have listened to the groundskeeper. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Treehouse of Horror 12 begins with a quick Halloweeny intro. Then we're off to Hex in the City. Marge gets asked if she's a cop. Well, she is, or she was, in Season 6. Then the family gets cursed. Marge gets a beard, Bart returns to Stretch Dude, Lisa becomes the pony she always wanted, and Maggie is a bug. But it ends with a wedding officiated by Yoda.
So well all is that well ends.
Next up, House of Wax. This is the second time they've been bullied by a house. But was it just because they picked Pierce Brosnan? Or would those other personalities have been just as bad? And since when does Homer care about his blood alcohol level while he's drinking? At home. Finally is Whiz Kids, not to be confused with the makers of HeroClix. Hogwarts comes to Springfield, and they misuse that power as much as the movie characters do. Altering time, physically transforming each other, erasing minds. And then there's that barfing frog monster and watching Smithers actually eat Mr. Burns. Ugh. Next. Treehouse of Horror 13. It's the first Halloween special to use that title, and the second one to not use their scary names. The first segment is Send in the Clones. Now they're all technically Homer Simpson, and one of them beheads Ned Flanders, so I figure that's 3 times that a Simpson has killed him. Also the 4th time that a donut has caused Homer big problems. Next is the fright to creep and scare harms. Ugh, that title. This is the 2nd time that zombified historical figures have invaded Springfield. Stop burying famous people next to a leaky nuclear power plant. Finally, the island of Dr. Hibbert, where everyone there is turned into animals. What if the doctor partnered with Frink to use that machine that turned Bart into a fly, and then killed him at the beginning to silence him? Because Frink knew that the machine made 2 copies of each person, and that they had to kill one, prestige style, to make it irreversible. Whoa, that's enough of this. Treehouse of Horror 14 brings back the scary names and reminds us that it released in November. First up is Reaper Madness. This one could have been called The Death Claws because of those Tim Allen movies. The intro even referenced Christmas, so it's already on their minds. The Grim Reaper comes for Bart, which kicks off a merry yakety-sax hall chase. Is this just a normal day at the office for him? Second is Frankenstein. Frink keeps his dead father in the freezer like Mr. Freeze, but hasn't tried to fix him until now, unlike Mr. Freeze. Turns out the miracle cure was a hammer-screwdriver combo. Sure, why not? Thirdly, Stop the World, I Want to Goof Off. Bart and Milhouse order a Twilight Zone watch from an old comic and stops time with it. Did anyone else actually cut up your comics and order this stuff? It always turned out to be crap, but that didn't stop us. Now, whenever a story stops time, it's always such an interesting day outside. No one ever seems to be just sitting in front of the TV when life freezes. Oh, and Homer tries to kill himself over a donut. That's 5 for the donut curse. Now the thing about Treehouse 15, it's not my favorite. It starts and ends with musical moments that'll stick in your head for all the wrong reasons. And that's the scariest thing about it. We start with the Ned Zone. This one almost went on our Simpsons Kills Flanders list when Homer beamed him on the head with a bowling ball. But instead it gives him psychic powers, and he ends up killing Homer. That puts a twist in the list. Then 4 beheadings and a funeral. A pretty basic Jack the Ripper story with a few Simpsons character cameos and a couple of chuckles. But it gives us a few seconds of Kang and Kodos' steampunk UFO. Why can't we have a whole segment about that? Lastly is In the Belly of the Boss. It's a fantastic voyage inside Mr. Burns because Maggie Stroller has disappearing straps. This is the only one of the 3 segments without any death, but it does kind of return to that 2-headed Homer Mr. Burns thing from the 2nd special. Only less funny. Well, they do get better. Treehouse 16 starts off kinda draggy, with Kang and Kodos complaining about some baseball game that's delaying the episode. But then things get rolling, starting with BI, Artificial Intelligence. This is another Parent of the Year episode. Bart stupids himself into a coma and it takes them less than 60 seconds to replace him with a robot. And then Bart wakes up, and Homer dumps him in the woods. Next is Survival of the Fattest. You know the story. An eccentric, murderous zillionaire gathers a gaggle of average Joes to hunt them on his private reserve, just because he's bored. Well, it still isn't the most evil thing Mr. Burns has done. Lastly is I've grown a costume on your face. Springfield experiences its second cackling witch attack. Only this time she turns the citizens into the costumes that they're wearing, which is really bad for some of them.
That's why I keep my costuming on theme. Yeah, I'm scary.
Treehouse 17 kicks off Tales from the Crypt style. Then we're off to Married to the Blob. This is the second time that Homer becomes a giant monster that eats people, after eating a sentient ball of snot that falls from the sky. So complaining about that turkey sandwich in the second special, just know he'll eat anything. Then he bites off Flanders' head. That's Simpsons 4, Flanders 1, for those of you keeping score. Next is You Got to Know When to Golem, which gives the Simpsons control over essentially a genie, and mostly they use it to torture their enemies. Duh. Finally, The Day the Earth Looked Stupid. This one shifts gears a lot. It starts with the War of the Worlds hoax and people's belief and reaction. Then it shifts to their crazy solution, and then realizing they were duped. Then an actual alien attack, and their second disbelief. Then it builds up to a thinly disguised piece of political commentary, and roll credits. It's tough to know how they want us to feel after this bit, but onward. Treehouse 18 pokes fun at a Halloween episode airing in November, yet again, as well as those network ads that pop up on the TV and kill the mood. We start with E.T. Go Home. What if E.T. had been evil, and the government had been right to overreact? Bart finds Kodos in his shed and fails to recognize him as the alien that abducted him and ran for president. But hey, this is all Elseworld stuff, right? He also fails to notice that it's obviously after global conquest. Not cool, bro. Next, the throwaway segment Mr. and Mrs. Simpson. Homer and Marge are assassins for some reason. Next, onward to Heck House. Finally, another Halloween theme. Bart, Lisa, Milhouse, and Nelson get into the pranking spirit on Halloween night, and the town enlists Flanders to scare them straight in his church's haunted house. But all goes side-diddly-eyed ways when he suddenly transforms into Devil Flanders and scares the hell out of them. We're then told that we're all doomed for watching. Like we didn't already know that. Treehouse 19 came out during an election year and sees Homer versus a rigged, murderous voting machine. Then we get to the ridiculous stuff. Starting with the Untitled Robot Parody, which actually did have a few titles, but I guess they didn't want to pick just one. This one takes place around Christmas, and a familiar alien tactic is seen here. If you want to conquer Earth, start in Springfield. Next is how to get ahead in deadvertising. Homer becomes a goon again and assassinates famous people for money. Those celebrities return from heaven to exact their revenge. So not exactly zombies this time. They were driven by licensing fees in life, so why should death change them? Finally, it's the Grand Pumpkin Millhouse. And I mean, finally! Simpsons hooks it up with this Charles Schultz classic. Only now the monstrous Grand Pumpkin appears and goes on a rampage, only to be stopped by another imagination-powered character, Tom Turkey, a Thanksgiving mascot. So this episode is a holiday variety pack, really. But where's the leprechaun? Treehouse 20 was the first one in years to actually come out in October, and starts with an intro featuring the classic movie monsters on a Halloween night out in Springfield. Honestly, I could have used a whole story about this. But first up is Dial M for Murder. Bart and Lisa get tangled up in a Hitchcock-inspired murder arrangement, and it all plays out in glorious black and white. Next is Don't Have a Cow, Mankind. Zombies have returned. Only this time, the locals are turned into what they call munchers from eating Krusty Burgers made from cannibal cows. Bart crosses zombie territory to get one, but then waits till he gets home to eat it. Then he turns out to be immune, so people want to eat him and drink his blood for protection. But instead they let him contaminate their food. Ew. Finally, there's No Business Like Mo Business, a full musical production with a few similarities to Sweeney Todd. First, Mo brews a beer flavored with human blood, again with the cannibalism. And second, the fate of a character is concealed so that a courtship can proceed. Naughty. Anyway, it's fun. They really went all out for the Big 20.